The mower train here, this is one that I picked up this summer. Been sitting under the deck. I haven't really had time to mess with it as of late. Picked it up I think about for 10 bucks, something like that. I mean, you can obviously tell this thing's pretty rough. It's a 14 SE John Deere, so it does have electric start. And a 5 horsepower Kawasaki. And then we've got the 5-speed self-propelled. Like I said, I have not messed with this. I haven't even checked the oil. I've done nothing. I just do know that back wheels are locked up. So I'm not sure if that's the self-propelled trans axle issue, or if these little locking tabs that go into a small gear, if those are gummed up and frozen. We'll tear into it, we'll check it out. You can tell they've, I'm imagining they switched the wheels at one point because they were locked up. I mean, that's a lot of tread missing off of these front wheels there, and those do turn. But it just so happens I do have some new wheels laying around, and just because I'm not really going to mess with it too much, and I already had one laying around, there's a nice new carburetor we can pop on there. eBay or Amazon special, I don't know, it was like 10 or 15 bucks too. But yeah, looks just about as rotted as you can tell from the video here. So I'm going to start tearing into it. Let's see if we've got any spark, and we'll kind of start from there, and then we'll get into the carburetor and see about maybe if we have to put some fuel line on it, what we have to do, see if we'll get it running. All right. All right, I got my spark plug tester on here. Let's go ahead and see if we got any spark. Yep. That's good. Perfect. Well, that's nice. Go ahead and get that spark plug out of there, see what it looks like. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. See if we can get this thing to focus. It's definitely wet. Yeah, definitely wet. So I don't know if we're getting gas, too much gas. There's only a couple pulls. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this thing up here real quick. There we go. I think that looks better. Okay, so I think we've got the spark kind of cleared and ready to go as far as making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Some spider house. Doesn't look terrible. I do believe there's supposed to be a foam element on that thing. Oh well. No. these side yard junk mowers, you know, you never know what you're getting into. Gasoline smells like paint remover. That's good. Definitely fantastic. Oh man, this thing is covered. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to just go ahead and change that fuel line out. Let's see here. That should do it. Go ahead and cut that. There we go. That'll work. Looking in that gas tank, there is a lot of crud in there. Let me see. We have a nice little filter to slap on there. Not seeing a little filter. I've got a big filter. It's a little too big. It's really more for a rider. Not really for a push. I know I've got something here. Let me check in the stash here. Alright, I went ahead and added a little bit of gas here. And we are flowing out of the tank. Obviously I have the fuel shut off on, so it's not going all over the place. Go ahead and take these spring clamps off of here. Don't really trust that old fuel line not to leak. We also found a filter, so that's good. That should help out. I don't want to go through all the trouble of replacing the carburetor just to have it clog up on me from God knows what's stuck in that fuel tank. Just a bunch of debris and stuff from use over the years. It happens. If I can sneak that on there. Put this cover off. Probably won't cooperate. I think that should be on there. Okay. now would be a great time to get this carburetor off. The question's going to be how these gaskets cooperate. If they just get all torn up when I pull it off here. Or if they play nice. Looks like they're going to play nice. I'll be damned. Look at that. Huh. Okay. That's the fun part. Getting these rods disconnected. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I can't say for sure if this has any legitimate issues. I think I'll just go ahead and pop this eBay one on here. See how she rolls. Yeah. Okay. Already a gasket on the other side, so I'm not going to need that one. Just poked a little hole in there. That fits in there pretty tight. Huh. should work. Okay. Go ahead and pop that off. Let's see about getting these rods on here. One. I feel like in general they're a lot easier to get on than they are to get off. We got a little spring here. Keeps tension on that rod so that it doesn't just flap around all over the place. Purely disconnected. We'll check that out. Just hope that it still is free. This thing is done. That's for the gearbox. I think I have another one of those. Very nice. New carburetor on. Let's see what we can do. How I want to route this. Because it has this big oil filter kit on here. We're going to route it underneath. That'll work out the best. And I think I'll put the fuel line right here, or the fuel filter. Get that in there. Provides the benefit of a little added length to the fuel line here. There we go. Let's see about popping this on here. we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the fuel on. Get some free flow. Go ahead and snap this air filter and cover back on while we're letting the fuel get to the carburetor, hopefully. Now, let's see if this has any movement to it. Nope, the throttle cable is frozen up. Okay. Let's see here, if I pull back on the throttle, it will push it out. If I give it full throttle, it'll pull it back. So that should be full throttle. Choke, if you will, on this as well. Let's see here what happens. Well, honestly, it doesn't feel like it has much of shit for compression, to be honest. Let's try some wake up juice. Go. I never heard this thing run, but there it goes. Just a little fuel, a little spark plug cleaning, a little new carburetor. So that's great. We've got it running, fired off. But this baby is far from anything you want to use to cut your grass. You know, it's pretty bad. We can start with some of this easy stuff. I am going to first find a screwdriver. Then I would like to pop these front wheels off. Right there. Let's start with this one. I've got these little, well, basically tiny hubcaps, if you will. It should be 13 millimeter. Say should be. Yep, they are. There you go. Who knows? There we go. Just press. Alright, let's see if we can make this process go just a little bit faster. So I hope that we get a 13 back here. Which appears that we do. There we go. Much better. It's easy to say that these are past their useful life. Let's get some new ones. Like these right here. Yes, sir. We got washer. And that. At least get that started. There we go. There we go. Put our little ugly old non-matching hubcap on there. Let's say we get the other one. I think this one is probably the worst. As far as condition goes. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty bad. Again, definitely not something you'd want to use. Let's see if I can move this down, that'll make my life easier. Okay, bolt, washer. Put it on. And then we get that nut started. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the easy part, was the front wheels. Now we're going to get into the time-consuming pain in the butt part, which is these frozen up parts of the rear. Okay, so you can see right here how badly rusted and frayed that cable is, going down to the transmission, if you will. All of this stuff right here is frozen up, especially that throttle cable. Now I do have some other cables. Hopefully they work. But they're of a slightly different model. If not, I might be able to get them fabricated a bit, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and start working on these rear wheels though, because I want to rule out the fact that those those gears and those little slide tabs, I want to see how free they are. So we'll get into that here shortly. Alright, let's check out this this rear wheel. Should be fairly telling of what's going on with some of this stuff here. I'm hoping it is just frozen up back here. I don't really want to take apart the whole gearbox on this thing. So we shall see. I mean, it's pretty rusty. That's for sure. Now I had a whole transaxle for one of these, and I don't know if I still have it or if I threw it away. I can pull this cover off. I don't even know if it got a belt on here. That belt is long gone. Yeah, I think that that's pretty stripped out feeling. Yeah, I think that's beyond its useful life. We've got our little battery here, which I'm sure is just in peak operating condition and is fully charged and ready to go. Or maybe not. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to search, look around and see if I can find a rear axle for this thing. But in the meantime, I could probably get it out of there fairly easily. Also have to hunt down a belt for this. This gear looks to be not too bad. Sometimes they get stripped up, but that one's not bad. So go ahead and get our new wheel here. And use the fresh side. How about that? We know we can get a little more grip on it. You see these front and rear wheels, they're identical. Only difference being for the rear wheel, you want to switch over this cog for the self-propelled, and it just bolts and unbolts on. Just like that. Wow. Amazing what wheels can do. So, we know we felt all locked up there. I think if I just went ahead and got a little bit of penetrating oil and quit fighting it, life might be a little easier or harder. There we go. It's actually not bad in there. Believe it or not, I thought it would look quite a bit worse, especially the way it was fighting me, but now it's actually not too bad looking. Man, I'd really like to get some sandpaper on that. It'll kind of wear on itself. That's what you're supposed to hear. See, it just clicks moving forward and then freezes in reverse. I mean, it's moving pretty good. I'm probably just going to leave that how it is. I really don't like putting grease or anything back in here. You know, I'll use graphite all day, but, you know, put grease or anything back here, all it does is trap and attract dirt and grass and all the other crap you do not want basically back here. You know, but given how this is playing, I don't know. that's pretty good. You know, I mean, it's never going to be any kind of beauty. It's not going into any mower shows. It's no beauty queen. We're just trying to see if we can get her to at least function in a way that is possibly usable. I mean, really is. That's what it is. Disintegrated. See pieces for it, but I know that there's probably supposed to be. There it is. I knew we had another washer somewhere. Let's see what that does. Holy crap. It's a miracle. Just kind of one at a time. You know, doing your thing. Okay. We have one more. So let's get on. Alright, so we got that last wheel on there. And so we're kind of halfway there. Push forward, it's still locked up, but it rolls freely backwards, which is, you know, what we want. I believe. So, I'm not sure if we're going to have to dig into that axle, but I'm not going to do that yet because I want to see what can be done about these levers right here, specifically the throttle. I do have a couple throttle cables for one of these that I had in my stash. So I'm going to pop this off of here and we'll see what we can do about maybe freeing some of this stuff up. That would be nice. If not, we'll obviously just replace it with what we got, right? There we go. see what we got here. Okay. So this cable is for the self-propelled engagement, and it's, tried it earlier, it's pretty bad. It is not one to feel like freeing up. Okay. Then we have this one right here. It's completely screwed, so that one's got to go. Regardless, this one right here, I don't know, looks like somebody was in there, bent that thing all up. That's just for the electric start. Yeah, that one's all sorts of messed up. Because not only is it frozen, but somebody went in there and bent it all up. And this replacement I have is quite a different length, but it's longer, not shorter, so we might be able to get something to work here, hopefully. Thinking and hoping so. All right. All right, so I think we can work with that throttle. Throw the old one away. So now we've got to work with this cable for it. Engagement here. So here's what we've got. We've got a clip on here right there that we'll need to pop off. That should be a fun experience. And then another fun experience is this right here. Hopefully you can see. We've got to get this loosened up right here. Obviously a little rusty. It's actually not rusty on the bottom part, because it had been a little bit shielded from the elements there. And we'll see if we can get another 13, get that on there, get this thing loosened up a little bit. Okay, I think we've got this kind of loosened up here a little bit, at least for the bottom. Like I said, I don't know if you can tell there, it wasn't quite as damaged from the elements. Now, I can only disconnect this spring here. Let's see how simple that will be. Let's maybe go this thing up just a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see under up in here. There we go. That'll do it. Okay. Might be able to just get some needle nose up in behind here. Just kind of work this thing off. Because if we can get this off, we'll just pop the new one back on here. This should just tap back on with a hammer, and I know it went flying, but I found it. Okay, there we go. This thing was not gonna do anything beyond its useful life. Okay. This one obviously does work. And hopefully will work. It's a little bit fatter end. That's okay, it should work. If it gives us issues, I'll just kind of grind that down a little bit so that we're not having those problems. Okay, I'll loop this through here. And we'll move you guys over here. Better idea of what we're looking at, which is that right there. So we're going to take this and we will loop it back through there, but first we're going to go ahead and get this spring hook back on here, which again might be easier if I just flip it up. Like I said, this is off a slightly different model. Hopefully it works. We shall see. Okay. And the nice part is the actual blade engagement does work. So the only one left we really have to worry about is this one. And that's for, I guess you'd say, shifting gears, if you will. Not terribly important, just because if I can go in here and, you know, switch it to a nice normal mowing pace, let's say it's second or third or whatever it is, I could just leave it there and at least we have self-propelled, even if it's not a full 5 speeds, which would be good. It's better than nothing. These things aren't necessarily light, you know, so. Alright, let's see if I can get this throttle housing mounted up and put back together, just so that we can get that mounted back up together. Alright, we gather this, and we'll get on it. Okay, so I've got this somewhat put back together up here. This cable was a little longer, so I just looped it around that mid bar. And right now, let's go ahead and get this connected back up, this throttle cable here. That should make life a little easier as far as actually using this turd. At least one would think here. It's all disconnected and out of sorts, so not exactly sure where I want this thing. I'm thinking right there. There we go, I think we got her lined up. It looks good enough here. Alright guys, so we went ahead and got this cable here for the throttle hooked up and all aligned, and sprayed a little bit of liquid wrench on there to free it up. It was a little grungy and corroded, like a lot of this mower is, just from sitting outside and being, you know, 30, 35 years old, whatever it is. But we did go ahead and get this rolling forward and backward. It's just going to be a push mower. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to locate my other transmission that I had. I'm pretty sure I threw it out when I was clearing out some stuff before I got this, and kind of wish I wouldn't have. But you know, the goal of this project is just to get it usable and get it to where it will mow and it will do what it's supposed to do for the most part, without me having to, you know, spend a bunch of money on new parts. You know, I'm just using what I've got laying around, and anything else, you know, we're just going through and, you know, removing rust, freeing stuff up, you know, similar to like these handlebars were really loose because these knobs here were all rusted up. So after a lot of elbow grease and work, you know, freed those up, cleaned the corrosion off the bolts, added a little bit of liquid wrench. Those are now nice and tight, along with the handlebar. You know, we got a little bit of the slack out of this for that other throttle cable that I have, but it's working. You know, it shuts off and it goes all the way down to choke. You know, obviously this isn't going to do anything. It's now just a push mower. But, you know, all in all, let's see, we had the carburetor laying around. Then I had 4 of these wheels. I did have those. Those are my last 4. We had a carburetor from eBay that I had laying around, and we had a throttle cable, and we had the self-propelled engagement cable, which I went ahead and put on there even though the self-propelled really isn't working. You know, because that would need a cable and it would need the box itself, because I'm pretty sure it's all locked up, and I don't really feel like tearing into that whole thing with, you know, a lot of times self-propelleds on push mowers, they'll strip gears and stuff. I just really don't want to tear into it. They're a big, nasty, greasy mess, and, you know, for a $10 mower, I just really don't feel like getting into it too much. But, you know, given the fact that that's all we've really put into it, and a little bit of time, you know, maybe an hour, maybe hour and a half, I think she's pretty good. And we also have the fuel line and the fuel filter. Let's give it some pulls and see if it'll start up and the blade will engage. I'm not sure, but we'll give it a try. Wow, that thing started in one pull, right off. Well, that's nice. That's actually very impressive, especially for a Amazon special carburetor. And that motor runs really nice, really smooth. Started first pull after the new carburetor, and I did end up putting a new spark plug in it. Yeah, I mean, I can't ask for much more than that. It is a little noisy when it's sitting at idle, and what that is these have clutch packs for the blade clutch, basically, so that you can engage the blade with that handle up there. There's a big set of bearings in there for that blade clutch, and they do get very noisy. It's a known thing with these John Deere push mowers of this aluminum deck style, the 14SCs, 14SBs, JX75, JE75. This is basically just an older JE75 because it's electric start, and you know, that whole blade clutch assembly is like literally $150 or so, and I'm not going to spend that money and put that into this. And you know, it's a little noisy. I could go in there. Generally what I do that helps quiet them down a little bit is I'll go in, you kind of have to tear the motor off of the deck, and you'll pull that clutch, and you know, there's a big bearing in there, and I just carefully pull off the seal for the bearings, and inject some grease in there because they just get all dried out, and then put that bearing seal back on, and generally that quiets them down quite a bit. So yeah, that's about it for this video. For the most part, I would call it a success. We really didn't get the self-propelled working the way that I would have hoped and liked, but you know, we did get it to where it free rolls forward and backward, so at least it's actually usable, and that engine runs very, very strong. You know, one pull starts right up, blade clutch engages, disengages. You know, I can't ask much more than that for a $10 mower. So we'll probably get this listed, get it sold, and move on to the next one. Next video I'm planning is going to be back in the office for my PS2 Model 90 XP. It's finally all finished, finally working. Got a floppy drive for it. For the love of God, that was quite the ordeal back and forth, sending it back and forth from the guy I bought it on eBay. It's not his fault, they just have a high failure rate. So, you know, had one, it was dead on arrival. Waited a few more weeks, he sent another one. It lasted a week or two, and then it died. And then he sent me a third one, and it wasn't compatible with mine because it had the asterisk on the eject button, and I was afraid, you know, if I plugged it in, it was going to fry my floppy drive controller. Really didn't want that because I didn't want to have to buy a new planer motherboard for that thing. So, you know, we finally got it all settled out, figured out. I found one, took a gamble. It works, has been working. So we're going to go over that for the next video. As for this, you have any questions? You know, I didn't probably get into this as much as I could have. You know, I don't like these videos going much longer than 45 minutes to an hour, but if you do have any questions about, you know, where I got the carburetor, specifics about this model or variants of the model, any other kind of issues, these are one of my favorite kind of push mowers. I really do like these Kawasaki engines. You know, they got a lot of power for the size, so, you know, that aluminum deck is great, but, you know, I just really didn't want to go to Deere and spend a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of parts and go around searching for another one of these, because even used, they're pretty expensive. That's why I was so lucky to find this one for 10 bucks, because, you know, that doesn't happen very often. But, again, nice model. It does have the, obviously the oil filter kit. Right there. Let's see, there's a whole lot. But, yeah, again, just, thanks for hanging out with me, wrenching with me, you know, bringing one of these back to life, saving it from a scrap heap.